What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome aboard to Trading with Bubba. It is Thursday, the last day of the month, the 30th of November, as we approach the end of the year. And market's seeing some price action today, which is interesting. I mean, again, not surprising. We assumed we'd see some coming in. As we look at the futures market, you can see the Dow itself is going up and is up 300 points today. The NASDAQ is going straight down. It's down 100. It was down as much as 150. The Russell's up 150. And the S&P is flat. So it's kind of an interesting action going on here. And look at crude oil suddenly fell out of bed. Crude oil's just dropped over $3 in about the last in the last 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's very interesting. We're starting to see some action. You've got some talk in the street. You've got some other things going on. But I did want to share with you. We looked at the other day. We looked at coin, if you remember. Okay, if you were here, not a big deal if you weren't. But we looked at coin, and we said that coin was at a blow-off position and that we would probably look to be a seller and sell some call spreads or something of that nature, not to get too aggressive, but expected some mean reversion. Now, that doesn't mean that coin is in trouble. It just means that it went up too fast, too far, and it was way overbought for about 14 days, and you're going to see some retracement. So the best way to attack a trade like that is to use spreads, which gives you credit, lets you have your limited losses, limited liability, but gives you a chance to play the game, okay? And participate when the market's a little bit more challenging. As we look across at some of the other stocks, look at Apple. Still stuck in consolidation. Even with the big sell-off, Apple is still in between 187.50 and 192.50. Amazon, still stuck between 143 and 150, okay? Meta, just now breaking down. So if you're watching and you trade Meta, okay, this is one that bears watching. It is breaking to the downside out of consolidation. Now, this is not a trade yet, okay? What you're really looking for here now is, first of all, it needs to close on the breakdown and the breakout to the downside. That's number one. Number two, what we'd like to see is we'd like to see it pop back into resistance, which is about, let's say, 330, okay? So, again, it's not just an automatic trade because it's breaking down here. This is something to watch. But now this should be, if you trade it, this should be on your watch list, looking for this to be a potential go to the downside now. Google, okay, is also in danger of potentially breaking down right here. It's not there yet. It's right on support. So if you said to me, you got to make a trade right now on Google, what are you going to do? Well, if I'm going to make it right this minute, I'm going to be a buyer. Okay, I'm going to sell put spreads if I'm going to do it right now. I'm not going to, and I'm not recommending you do, but that's what I would be looking at because I am on support. But it's certainly in danger of breaking to the downside. IWM is breaking out to the upside. So if you turn over the Meta chart or you look at this chart, what do we have? We have a breakout out of consolidation to the upside. So if IWM closes above resistance, I'd be looking for that to come back to support to become a buyer, interestingly enough, okay? And of course, as we go down the road here, the Microsoft had a false breakout to the upside. This would have been a potential buy point, which would not be a very good trade right now, but that's what I would be looking at. But now it's really just back in consolidation. So of course, the day is far from over, but those are the things that you should be watching. Look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is now in danger of potentially breaking down from consolidation. Okay, the Qs are in potential of breaking down from consolidation. Square dance, okay, that's right up at the upper end here. Now again, we don't know, but we can only use the probability of what the chart pattern or the footprint of the market is telling us. Okay, the SPY is right on that breakout level, so it would have been a potential buy on the breakout, on the pullback, which is right where it's at right now. Okay, I don't know where it's going to go from here. I mean, right now it's interesting that the SPY is flat and the Nasdaq's getting crushed, and the Dow and Russell are exploding higher. Tesla, look at that, broke out to the upside. Here, if you're a trader of Tesla, now if you don't trade them, it's not a big deal. But this would be a spot to be looking around 240 to be a potential buyer. Now, again, we always want to buy big and make big decisions and get big trades. But I always recommend, especially in the conditions that we have, your first entry into a trade should be somewhat safer, which is selling put spreads in this particular case, because again, if you're wrong and it explodes to the downside, then you protected yourself. You've only lost a little bit. If it is going to break out, then you can always add to your position, because once you can really confirm that the trend has broken out, then you now allow yourself to buy every dip, every support level on its way up. Okay. Win got cracked yesterday, broke to the downside. If I was trading Win right now, I'd be looking to be a seller at about 85. Okay. And this is what I'm looking at when I look at all these charts. Okay. Is to give myself a position and a reason to trade. Here, Zoom broke out to the upside. We'll see if this holds here. Okay, at 68 or so, it's possibly a buy. All right, and these are using the market, using the footprint that the market leaves to your benefit. Now, know that you are at the end of the month, so today is a little quirky, and that's, I think, why we're seeing the indexes the way they are. But you can see a lot of different things happen here. Next week is a big news week. You've got CPI, PPI, jobs number. I don't know if the Fed's next week, but you've got all kinds of stuff coming out next week, which can drive this market. You're now starting to hear a little bit of bad news. Now, I'm not a news guy. I never watch the news, but I just came from an interview that they were talking about what Jamie Dimon said, which is that he expects to see a potential recession in 2024. Well, I think the recession's already here. But I think when you're looking at the market, the overall economy, the overall market doesn't really affect every individual stock. Okay. Each stock, if we do get into a big meltdown, and I'm not saying we are, but if we do, every stock will bottom at a different time. And if you go back to 08, for example, Amazon bottomed in November of 08 at 30. Okay. By the time the rest of the market bottomed, it was already at 60. And these are things that you have to be understanding. That's why the footprints that you watch in these markets are so important. This is why the ability to play these markets and read what's happening in front of you, not worrying about what the news is, not worrying about what you hear on TV, not worried about your opinion, okay? Because again, these are things that get you into trouble. Every decision you make in trading should be based on this chart. Okay, your chart that you're looking at. Here, I'm gonna bring you back over here. So every decision I make, like this morning, we were day trading. We made 3 trades this morning. Okay, we made money on 2, lost on 1, but everything was based on a particular move and particular action. Okay, and if I was paying attention, I would have probably been a buyer of crude right down off of this move right here. But again, it doesn't really matter. As I'm looking here, there's really nothing doing. We're starting to slow down and get quieter right now. But you can see that the patterns develop whether you're looking at a 1 minute or a 4 minute or an hourly or a daily, because all the patterns are going to eventually repeat themselves. And if you learn to recognize that, and for example, if I'm looking at the NASDAQ future right now, it doesn't matter, the Q is a NASDAQ future. This looks to be like it's some resistance. This looks to be like it's some support. So I can identify this as a market that is now consolidating, getting ready to make the next move. Which way is the next move going to be? I don't know. But I would suspect that next move is going to be lower, because the other proof I have is the trend right now on this time frame is lower. Okay. But I'm not going to outguess that. I'm going to wait for a reason to sell it. So I would either look for a potential sell up at resistance and cover myself if it got back to support, or I'll wait for the breakout to the downside and wait for a bounce back into support or into resistance. Okay. But you can see the same thing happening in a bigger scale in the S&P. Okay. There's a big consolidation pattern, a series of double tops and double bottoms. Okay. You can see the same thing happening in the euro currency. So you have some of these, you got 8 markets you're looking at. Some are trending, some are falling out of bed, crude oil. Okay. Some are trending higher. Okay, the Dow and the NASDAQ the Russell is kind of quirky. Okay, it's kind of trying to lean higher, but is giving way right now. Okay, and these are the things that you're watching, because these are the trigger points in which you would make trades or action from. Okay, and if I were going to make a trade, for example, I'm going to make this trade. It's not what I would normally do on a day trade, but I'm going to do it here because here we are at resistance. we're coming off of resistance in the euro currency. So I'm going to go ahead and sell a euro future right now. Okay. I just sold the euro future. I'm going to put my stop in, which is going to be somewhere up around here at like 92. I sold it at 18. My stop's going to be at 928. Okay. So I've got a trade on. I'm protected. I don't have to watch it anymore. I can watch the rest of the markets. But again, anything that would be up against resistance, I might be looking to be a seller. Okay. Anything that is down along support, I might look to be a buyer. Crude oil, I am waiting for this. This looks to be and appears to be a market that's going to blow off to the downside, which means there's going to be a panic sell here at any minute. Okay. And if that happens, then I'm going to be a buyer off of that. That when you get to the blow off pattern, that alleviates all other patterns. The blow off is a panic pattern. It's an emotional pattern. It's a get me in or a get me out pattern. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to help you out. If you want to sell them and puke them out, I'm going to buy them from you. If you want to chase them up and buy them because you got FOMO, I'm going to sell them to you. Okay. Now again, it's not always going to work. Okay. It's going to work about 66% of the time if you do it properly. And I didn't get a blow off here. Here, let's go back to it real quick. Okay. I didn't get a blow off here because I didn't get enough volume. I have to have a spike in volume. Okay. And the volume should be somewhere near, depending on the overall volume, either higher than or near the high of the day, which it is not. Okay. So again, there's no trade for me yet, but I would suspect watching this and watching the price action that I'm looking at, there's more room to go to the downside. And you may indeed get that particular panic. Okay. And as you look at our trade we have open, which we sold it, here you go. So we're right where we sold it, but it has not been able to break out to the upside yet. Okay. So this applies to whether you're using options and like selling spreads up against resistance or against support. Okay. Or if you're buying options, again, whatever you're doing, you're using the patterns that are right in front of you. The S&P is in the middle of nowhere. It's not even a trade to make, as is the NASDAQ right now. I just not even look at it right now. The Russell's breaking down. Okay. The crude oil still goes lower. Okay. Here's the euro currency still sitting here. So now if I'm looking at this now, I'm saying, wait a second. It's a little bit concerning to me. It did not at least come down and test this level here. It looks like it may want to break out. Okay. So I may get stopped out here. I'm not sure. I don't really care right now. I mean, again, to me, every trade is independent. And again, I have it in, I have a stop in, so I don't have to worry about it. But it's something that I would look at. But I will say this, if it does get down to where I get a couple of ticks worth of profit here, I will move my stop to break even. Okay, right now I'm not doing anything. Right now I'm not taking a break even now. I'm not taking a tiny loss right now. I'm going to let this trade out. Okay, win or lose, I'm going to let it go. Okay, but if it does, but I do have a plan, and that is it's trying to test right now. Again, you can see that trying to push through one more time. If it pushes through, then I'm probably going to get stopped out. But I am not going to stop early. I'm going to wait. Okay, and as you watch this crude oil here, look at what's going on here. So you're getting a little bit heavier volume. This has got a real shot to be a real play as we sit here and watch this. Okay, and we'll see. I'll come back to it because I kind of got my eyes on it all the time, anyways. But you're watching the consistency of how the markets are reacting at certain levels. Okay, you look at the Russell. It broke down back into consolidation, but it's still hovering around what we would consider to be support. This is still hovering around what we would consider to be resistance. Okay. Neither has really gotten too far away from that level. Okay. And that is what you're watching when you trade these markets. Now, it doesn't appear that we're still not seeing enough of an acceleration in the crude oil market yet, but it is something that I am watching because I am assuming it's going to come. Okay. Now, it could just find a bottom softly and turn from here. I mean, again, it doesn't have to blow off, but my guess is based on the way that it's gone down, you could see one more final push before you'll see a little bit of a rally. But I don't have enough evidence here yet that there's enough people panicking, or as we used to say on the trading floor, I'm not seeing enough people's tonsils right now to go ahead and give them to them. But if they come in, I'll be happy to oblige when that does happen. But here you're watching. So we're seeing each of these markets. You have the NASDAQ now reaching up right towards resistance. Okay. S&P is still in the middle. naturally, the euro currency is broken back and we're back to about break even. If it gets, I needed to go a little bit lower so I can get a stop in. Okay. I just don't want to just take break even. I want to try to give myself a chance to make some money. So I'm going to let it go for a minute. I'm taking risk. Again, this is a risk business. Okay. If you're not willing to take risks, you shouldn't be here. Okay. So now, as I watch the crude's bounced a little bit. So even though the volume is higher, there wasn't enough selling this time. So last time there wasn't enough volume. This time there wasn't enough selling, but we're still in a position that can show up at any moment. Okay. And notice, so now there you go. So now I can move my stop in my euro currency. I've now locked in no worse than break even. Okay. And I've got a chance to catch a runner to go to the bottom. And then I will manage that trade from here. Okay. And again, we're watching the same things. These same patterns appear whether I'm watching 4 minutes or whether I'm watching daily. Okay. Here was that blow off pattern in coin. We talked about it and we gave a specific recommendation the other day on this. So here you go. Okay. And this is what you're always trying to watch. This is what you're trying to always put yourself in that position. Okay. And again, so I go back to just real quickly, Apple, there's no trade to make right now. Okay. The trade I'd be looking at right now, if it'll hold support, I might be able to be a buyer. Okay. Again, it's very basic. Every trade should be very much matter of fact, based on the chart pattern, based on anything but, when you let the news get in your way, okay, all you're really doing is creating a problem. So now I've locked in 3 or 4 ticks on my euro currency trade, and I am not touching it now for a while. I'm going to let it go. Okay. I'm not going to trade it for a while. I'm going to let it go. Okay. And we'll see what happens. If it stops me out, hey, I'll take the small profit and be done. If it keeps me in, then I'm going to try to let it run. Okay. So we'll watch this last bar on crude to see if it gives us a potential buy signal here. Okay. And the buy signal is not really a buy signal. As you look at it, this is a panic. We're buying on the panic of others. That's what this trade is about. The blow off trade is giving emotional people something that they want badly, but they're always wrong. Okay. Or most of the time they're going to be wrong. All right. I can't ever say always and forever. I can say mostly. So my euro currency is still hanging out. Looking down. Now I was trying to break through this little level here. So we'll see what happens here. Crude is not going to have enough volume. I can already see that the volume is lightening up. So this is just, you would call this more of an orderly sell, not a panic sell, but an orderly sell. Okay. And those are the things that you're watching as a trader. Okay. These are the things that you should always be watching as a trader. Look at our euro currency. See, it's starting to break through that level here. If it closes down here, I think I'm in really good shape. Okay. And again, that's just a trade that I made, with you live based on exactly what I'm teaching you. Okay. And here it is bouncing back up again. See how it's battling that little support area? So just keep that in mind. Be careful. It is not the greatest of all environments in the world right now. But it is much better. Today has been, the last 4 or 5 shows we've done, today's been one of the busier days and one of the days that have had much more activity to look at. Okay. And I'm going to I'm going to let this true trade finish out. So I'm going to see what happens here if it does actually give us a trade, because there's always the chance, right? It only takes one big order to really push it through. But you can see that the NASDAQ tried to reach out, is kind of failing. Again, there's no trade there, but it's reaching up, and your objective of getting pattern recognition is something that is also important. If you look at the Dow future right now, you can see that we have a pretty solid resistance level right now. And this could be certainly the breakdown. I would think your next support would be down to here. So I'd be watching those kind of levels to see. Crude did not get there and will not get there. So we will see you on Tuesday. Remember, I do an update every day for about a minute and a half. But until, have a great weekend, everybody. And until Tuesday, be careful, keep your powder dry, but be ready to act if the trade sets up the way you want it. Have a great week, everybody.